When you speak, all I can hear is silence. Turn it back from all the pain and violence. Big tunes, now we speak tunes, I'm killing. Cry now from the side, now call my name. Fall down when you see me, you know that I was there for you. I will wait for you, for you. I will wait for you. I will wait for you. Yeah. Finally, I'm not running back. I'm turning up and on and down, coming down. I be coming for your mind, running in. I be fighting for your time, right? I know it's fine, I know it's good. Damn, I know you're mine, you know it too. Fine, I might be wrong, but I don't care. I just in my own, just been on there waiting for you to come, yeah, and be under 18. Ride my wave, would you ride my bike? Cause I've been giving you my time. And I make iced tea and I make it where you love it. Yeah, flaws and all, I be the one you run to. And I be for you and no one else. Tell me what you want, I be going in, finally. And I make iced tea and I make it with your lemon. Yeah, I'm on the jets, I make you break when I quest. I'ma light up this place, let me spice up your plate. Set it up, take a squeeze, pour it up and make it freeze. Make that tea, the vibe is made, the vibe is made. Here's my peace of mind, I'ma give you one more try, yes. If you need a ride, then you met the leading vibe, yeah. Come and get this oil, you can pour it where you like. I'ma throw you on my back, but now I see you've just been on there waiting for you to come, yeah, and be on that steady. Ride my wave, would you ride my mind? Cause I've been giving you my time, baby. I make iced tea and I make it with your lemons. Yeah, flaws and all, I be the one you run to. And I be for you and no one else. Tell me what you want, I be going in, finally. And I make iced tea and I make it with your lemons. Yeah, yes. You know that really going mine. You know you really going mine. You know you really going mine. So let me help you squeeze. I know you wanting me. I know you wanting me. Yeah, you want it, baby. Ooh, raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Raspberry, blueberry. Yeah, I said it's raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Raspberry, blueberry. Oh, I said it's raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Raspberry, blueberry. Yeah, I said it's raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Yeah, yeah. Ice,
Ginger and vanilla.
ice.
Ginger and vanilla.
You right,
Honey in the center.
vibe.
Honey in
You
the center.
taking flights.
Ginger and vanilla.
Whoa,
Ginger and
you know it's true.
can make your dinner.
Damn,
I can make
you know it's mine.
ginger and vanilla.
Oh boy,
Ginger and vanilla.
alright,
Honey in the center.
alright.
Honey in the center. Ginger and vanilla. Ginger and vanilla. I can make your dinner. I can make your dinner.
you thought I was disturbed before, baby boy, I'm gonna disturb you now. If you thought I was disturbed before, baby girl, I'm gonna disturb you now. Disturb you. Disturb you. Disturb you. Disturb you. Give me shame, I give you peace from underneath. Give me mind and being light to reignite. Can you open up the doors to let me in? Can you open up the doors to let me in? You could put the hurt inside on top my head as I sing the love inside from out my mouth. Tell me what you need to find. Tell me now. Tell me what you need to find. This is a place with no shame. This is a mind with no frame. This is the light with no dark. This is the truth with no faults. This is a place with no shame. This is a mind with no frame. This is the light with no pain. This is a place with no shame. If you thought I'd be distracted, baby boy, I'm gonna distract you now. If you couldn't be reminded, baby girl, I'm gonna remind you now. Tell me what you need to find 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 now. It's been burning on my mind now. Tell me what you need to find now. Tell me what you need to find now. Tell me what you need to find now.
So I thought, okay. So everybody was like, oh, another boy is coming. So I kept on telling them, why on earth can you be so sure? What's that rubbish? Yes, he said, this is a girl. Her name is Temilade. Don't forget the name I told you. And she's a special baby. So I kept on telling everybody, kept on laughing. Yeah. One of those, maybe you had a dream about it, Abby. Yeah, most unlikely, nobody can tell anybody's, whether it's a baby girl or boy. I just kept telling them that, but God told me this is a girl, and her name is Temilade. You can't just pick a name for yourself. Families give names. I said, well, I don't know, but I know that her name is Temilade.
Ready and I'm riding. When I come around, they ain't shotted. They all want a key to the garden. So I put it up and I light it. Tell me how you like it. Get me on the wheel, I'ma drive it. But they wanna raise up the mileage. Well, I don't like to turn my back. It's so I work and give back. May I just try to day my lane. I got the gang behind now. Listen when they call my name. I found a voice within me. No man can curse what God has made. So I can beat your pain when the dark is closing in. See, they want to lock me down. When they try to take me down, we be flying off the ground. When the world is going out, when the earth is falling in. This is the mind, this is the light. This is the dawn, this is the way. I see the drain coming before me. I've been the one, don't have to say it. This is the vibe, don't need to fake it. Seeing the world, living beyond it. This is the key, so I can save you. Well, I don't like to turn my back, so I work and give back. May I just...
Hello? Hello? Okay. Good afternoon. We'll start soon, promise. Okay. I should start. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Cool. We knew that the only session that would get you up at night after partying till early hours of the morning was finance. So that's why we moved it to Monday straight out the bat. So thank you all for coming. Welcome to AFRIF Day 2. The session has changed a little bit. The name of this session is Film Financing, Building a Sustainable Structure. And I think from the beginning of AFRIF, at every festival, we always have a finance panel. And we are always talking about how to get money for one film or one project. And we have seen 10 years down the line that it hasn't been sustainable. And so we're starting to, so basically this kind of brought up the conversation. So how can we start to think about our productions as businesses that can stand the test of time? How can we start to have conversations about slate financing and not just individual projects? And how can we build a sustainable future? AFRIF has always been focused on filmmakers and individual filmmakers and promoting filmmakers and films, but we know that we will be here in 40 years and 50 years if filmmakers continue to make films, and if it's a sustainable industry for you as individual filmmakers, and not just the filmmakers. I mean, the film industry spans beyond films and just producers and filmmakers. There have been businesses that have been grown out of infrastructure and sound, and basically an industry is sum of all its parts. And so that's why we're here now to talk about sustainable financing for the film industry. And joining us, because this is a hybrid festival, online is Geneva Wasaban. She is Dentus, the Story Lab first EVP of Scripted Development and Production. Prior to this, she was Senior Vice President at Motion Pictures multi-platform studio Condé Nast Entertainment, and was co-founder and executive producer of Project Z Entertainment. Before that, she produced projects including Gnome Alone and Soul Searching. So, Geneva, we're glad to have you with us today. Sound check. Hello, what? Can you unmute your mic? Yeah, she'll be with us. She's been with us. She's been waiting as well as you all have. And it is 2 a.m. And in person. Yeah, she has to unmute herself. She's still muted. See, this is why we still need live festivals. Okay. The second panelist with us today is Mr. Frank Peters. He is Technology and Innovation Advisory at PAC Capital. Okay, so we can clap. So let's encourage him. Let's encourage them. Thank you. And PAC Capital Limited is a member of the Pan-African Capital Holdings Limited. It's a licensed full-service investment banking firm providing financial advisory and capital raise services across diversified sectors such as oil and gas, public sector, power and energy, and financial institutions. So isn't this interesting that now the creative industry merits investment bankers and people are seeing like the future of the creative industry? Can you hear us, Geneva? Can the host unmute her or allow her unmute? Hello from the other side. she's. Can you hear? Can we take the phone?
Yeah, I unmuted myself. It doesn't have the little thing, the little red.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Hello. Hello.
Okay. Hello, Geneva. Can you hear us? Oh, but I can. Let me call over there. Two years later.
Hello. No problem. Do you see I'm unmuted? Oh. Should I try to change my sound, like to speaker on my computer and see?
So can you hear us now? Can you unmute? No. Actually, no, send me the Zoom link. Send me the Zoom link. Yeah. Yes, I understand that, but there's this computer is there, so even if that's unmuted, doesn't mean that you'd hear us. So somebody here has to be online on Zoom, right? No? Can you hear us now? Okay. Hi, Geneva. Can you hear us now? Well, it happened 5 times, so. Hello? Okay, I can hear her now. Yes, because this. You can see the stage. Okay. That's my first question. Yeah. Okay. Um, well, where's the union? To the mic. Okay. Okay, we're going to start.
No, unmute yourself so that when you unmute that, then it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so try.
Wait, so should I mute it or not mute it?
Mute it. What do you think?
Yeah. Can people hear from here?
Use the noise.
Hello? Hello.
Yeah, I'm
Jennifer.
here.
Okay. So can you hear her now? All right. Hello, Geneva. Welcome to our first 2021. So we can hear you from the phone now.
Great. I'm gonna change my input though. Hold on 1 second. It's not echoing.
Okay. No, but she can hear us. Can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think we could just start. The first question was directed at you, Geneva, and we wanted to talk about basically what the Story Lab does. Can you just talk us through basically what the Story Lab, who is the Story Lab, you know, and what does Story Lab do?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? Great. Great. So the Story Lab is a division of Dentsu, which is a multinational company engaged in advertising and a number of other businesses, including content production, creation, and distribution, and financing.
Okay, and same question to you, Frank. Can you just talk us through Pack Capital and just introduce your company in general?
Hello. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the festival. This is day 2, and in response to your question, Juma, PSC Capital is a member of the Pan-African Capital Holdings Group. The group is a proprietary investment holding company with interests across various sectors of the African economy. But PSC Capital in particular is an investment banking firm. We're a full-service investment banking firm. We're licensed by the SEC, and we provide financing to both giving rise to our name, PAC. Today we have transactions across 25 African countries, north, southern, and even as far as Madagascar. And we work also with governments, and our success we have achieved across Nigeria also cements us as one of the top investment banks in Nigeria. And vision is to be the foremost investment banking company in Africa. So basically that's who we are as PAC Capital and what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. So filmmaking is now, I guess, global, and an independent film is independent film across the world. Geneva, you spoke about like indie filmmaking. You have, as a producer, even before joining the Story Lab, you've worked on financing a slate of films and independent films. Can you talk us through the process in terms of setting up the slates or setting up the company, and just like walk us through financing independent films?
Sure, yeah, so it's changed a lot over the last, even in the last 2 years due to the pandemic. But generally speaking, for independent film, these are lower budget films that have a finance plan that consists of various sources of capital. And one of the things that, as an independent producer, that you think about is, where am I filming this? Does it have tax credits or incentives that can go toward or reduce the cost of the movie? So when I put together a slate, I typically will look at, what efficiencies can I find financially if I put together more than one film in terms of production, capabilities, and economy of scale. So if you can keep the same crew working on multiple films and produce, continuously, you can find a lot of efficiencies there. In the past, a very popular way to finance films would be to go to a festival such as this and find buyers before you've financed the film, before you've produced the film, in a pre-sale. So you'd get commitments from distributors around the world, and that would go into the finance plan, and then a loan against those commitments could be taken out by a film finance bank. There are quite a few amazing lenders, particularly in the United States and the UK, but also around the world. And the finance plan typically will consist of, for independent film in America, pre-sales, tax credits, and equity. And if you're really lucky, you don't need equity because you pre-sold your film for what you can make it for. It's changed. And in exchange for that, you typically don't expect additional money from the exploitation of the film. There are new models now, and I'm really excited about those. And in some ways they're not new. But one thing that I think every producer is thinking about, since Netflix came on the scene and Amazon and all of these amazing streamers, is creating content that is more authentic, local. We're seeing more films and television series in local languages that can find audiences, and that's really exciting. And we're also seeing advertisers and brands looking for opportunities to reach those audiences that they cannot advertise on, and that's sort of where the Story Lab fits.
Okay, I'm going to come back on the advertising and product placement in terms of financing, but just, I guess, in terms, we've always had, just to kind of bring it back home, we've always had conversations around financing, and we're talking about taking loans maybe from BOI, and we've talked about taking loans, and we've complained about how commercial bank loans were not as accessible, but what's happening now, like, it's more around having conversations, because the world is open completely, and we're selling to the same streamers, we're selling the same content, and even Nigerian producers who live in the diaspora are in the same markets, basically, for the same funding to make the same films. So it's important that just that we contextualize that that this is the global standard way of doing things. Like, so there would be pre-sales, and there would be where you sell the film to different markets and different target audiences, to different markets even before starting the film. But we've never had to, we've never really kind of done that here. But we have to start thinking of for Nigerian films, not necessarily like African cinema. African cinema, the route to markets for outside of Nigeria has been to raise money from labs, from funding from film festivals, and try to get some development funding going, and then after that try to get some pre-sales or get some distributors on board. But we're still basically working in a more hand-to-mouth way, like where we're not financing projects, 10 projects like 5 years ahead, where we're not thinking slate financing. But what the streamers have done, in a sense, is they've opened up the market. So now we can all kind of compete globally, because everyone is looking for local stories. And so putting together those packages, putting together what is useful, what we can pre-sell to streamers, and what we can also pre-sell to brands and advertisers. So, because that's also something we haven't really touched on, is product placement. So could you talk us through branding and advertising and product placement, and getting that secured even during development, and how that financing has worked?
So, should I put my camera? I'll just leave that. So I'll just go back a little bit, if that's all right. So advertisers have always been connected to content. If you go back to radio days in the 1920s, stories would be told through the radio and would be presented and made possible by a brand that was the sponsor. And then fast forward to the 50s, when Palmolive presented the soap operas, the daytime television. It's called soap operas because a soap company paid for them. And then, of course, on linear television, we're used to seeing advertisements. Although that's sort of gone away with the advent of DVRs and of course now ad-free streaming, consumer behavior has changed. So we're sort of going back to, I think, sort of the presentation, having brands align content, align values, messaging, even campaigns with content to bring stories that consumers want to watch, want to engage with, again, whether that's a podcast or a television show or a film, and not advertise to a customer, but rather present them with value, which is excellent storytelling, and it's even better if it aligns with their core values of the brand, or even an ability to integrate with a brand. But it's separate from branded content. Branded content is an advertisement that tells a story. Aligning affinity marketing, which would be aligning a story with an audience that's also a consumer for a brand. And so brands are getting more involved. Storylab exists for that reason. And we produce television and films. My job is in the scripted space. We also work in documentary and formatted reality. So it's a really exciting time because advertisers are thinking differently about providing value to their customers. And if your favorite series or film was brought to you by that brand, I think you'd think very highly of that brand and have loyalty. But also it's an opportunity for brands to invest and in success, not only recoup their money, but make a profit. And that's not new either. Do you know in Nigeria the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971?
Yes.
So that was paid for by Quaker Oats, an oatmeal company that was getting into candy and had planned to launch the Willy Wonka bars, candy bars. It was fully funded by Quaker Oats, and most people wouldn't know that. But that's all the way back to 1971.
So does Storylab is Storylab entering into Africa and thinking of developing content on the continent, and with the brand.
Storylab is in Africa.
Okay.
Lagos. Yeah.
Okay. You're set up in Lagos now.
Yes.
And what's your intention for setting up, and how can you be engaged? I sent your packaging projects in terms of for brands and for streamers.
Yes, correct. So we're looking for stories that will resonate in West Africa and that can travel globally as well. There are a lot of U.S. fans of Nollywood, as you probably know, that are discovering Nollywood through and Nigerian films and television through the streamers, which are making them very accessible, and the demand is just growing. So finding those local stories that we can tell and share, again, that can become successful both on the continent of Africa, but also travel overseas.
And what of the question of IP and IP ownership? Because now with producers coming in from outside and buying up content for literature and for TV, how would that work with producers here engaging with Storylab? So is it producer for hire, or is there equity ownership involved in this as well?
Yeah, so IP is really my background, and IP is sort of the focus of the company is to unlock more IP for the creators, and that even includes, again, whoever's financing it, the brands. Typically right now when a worldwide sale is made, it's a trade-off because you're getting your financing, and the risk is sort of on the distributor that's fully financing it. The model that we're looking at is to, again, create content that we believe we can distribute because we have distribution. And in success, that IP stays with, well, not in success, but that IP stays with the Storylab and its partners. And so it's licensed rather than outright sold. When a movie or a series is outright sold from the outset, then that IP transfers over to the distributor. So that's a model, that's a shift in the model a little bit that we're excited about, because creating an IP library creates value over the life of that IP. And again, that includes the producers and the talent.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move to Frank Pieces here, and then just if you stay on, because I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions in terms of the audience, so we would open it up to a conversation quickly. I just wanted to also introduce what PAC Capital is doing on the continent as well. Okay, so first an announcement. And AFRIF is pleased to announce that La Vida Studios has secured the $50 million funding from PAC Capital Limited. $50 million. I didn't stutter. La Vida will utilize the funds raised to finance production of its pipeline of film projects and for La Vida production infrastructure. The funding is being accessed from PAC Capital's Pan-African CCI Fund 1, PCCIF1, a $100 million fund dedicated to financing film production and distribution in Africa. This part of PAC Capital initiatives to provide the much required financial support to Africa's vibrant and lucrative creative and cultural industry. So, Mr. Frank Peters, can you reintroduce yourself? Just give us some background in terms of PAC Capital. So earlier you said that you've worked in oil and gas and power and energy and financial institution. Is this your first foray into the creative industry, and why?
Thank you very much, Shima. So first I would digress a bit because one of the things we keep on saying as Africans, but I don't think it has come home, is that Africa is a resource-rich continent. And when you talk of resources, you have natural resources, you have human resources. And we all know about natural resources, and one of the reasons we have a very interesting history of colonialism has been the exploitation of the resources of Africa, and those were the natural resources. Well, we use words like plundered and all that. Today we don't have that, but you still see that we struggle with exploiting it for ourselves, right? And this affects the productivity of Africa across all sectors. Now, the creative and cultural industry is a very unique one. It's different in the sense that Africa
somehow it appears we have
ability, it's part of us, it's like our lifestyle, right? I mean, it's our lifestyle, literally. Okay. And interestingly, we are at a time that the exploitation of the creative and cultural industry is becoming much more rewarding for whoever. So you talk about indie producers, it means wherever you are, you can basically come together, do your stuff. You don't have to even work with the very big studios, and you put stuff out and you're there. If you look at the movie industry, the music industry, you find people going from 0 to 100 in a very short while. So what that means is that we have those resources. They are here. And one thing lacking has been how we translate or reward, institutions, people who want to invest in these resources. For the natural resources, it's straightforward. You have institutions that have been lending to mining industry, oil and gas, power, just like the question you asked, our experience. So we've seen it happen over and over and over across all sectors. We've done over $5 billion across different sectors, different countries, different instruments. But when you come to the creative industry, it seems like we don't have those options available, which is why as PAC we decided to come together to create options that are relevant, because it appears the industry the opportunities are growing faster than the finance options. And we, from experience, from what we have done across all industries, we believe that we are in the position to change the narrative around financing of the creative and cultural industry, especially the film industry. And that is why we have come in to put together packages, right, to make sure that the opportunities we see don't go wasting, and then opening up room for maybe another period of, oh, we are blessed, but we're not using it. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that we see the opportunity, we see the massive potential, and interestingly, we're not the only ones seeing it. The other players are also seeing it, the international players are seeing it, investors are trying to come in. But they don't know Africa the way we know Africa. Yeah, they don't understand Africa the way we understand Africa. We don't only live here, we breathe here, this is our home. And if we have done billions across other sectors, I mean, the creative industry for us and the film industry is a no-brainer.
This $100 million is just testing the water. You just want to see how it is.
The truth is that it's not enough if you consider what, I mean, look at the challenge of our oil and gas industry. Okay, we just recently passed the petroleum industry bill. This is something we should have done 20, 30 years ago. And the reason is that we probably, run around, we don't understand it, there's so much, but the contest or the contention is because we are seeing the money. And then of course there's always fights when you know where the money is coming from. Right now, many people are not seeing the creative industry and the money in it. They don't understand it. It's not been digested. Okay, they say the economy of California is bigger than that of the entire Africa put together. I think so. And of course, California is driven. Okay, tech. Well, tech is part of creative industry. You have Hollywood. You have the rest.
So let's drill down now. So what does this, so first of all, you said it's a Pan-African fund. So is it open for, I guess the first question, is it open for Pan-African? I guess also it's a question for you, Geneva, because we're not telling Pan-African stories in the way that we should. So we're not involving creators from Kenya or across, apart from maybe like technically doing some technical work in South Africa. So is this a Pan-African fund accessible for you first, for producers across or for businesses across Africa?
The best way to, yes, and the best way to illustrate that was, I recall sometime I traveled for an official mission in Madagascar. That was my first time in the country, and they speak French, more French, and a little English. And so we went hanging out at night. It was supposed to be a local club. They had their band playing. And then, first song, I didn't understand it, second song, and then the third song was a song by P-Square, Easy. And then the entire place erupted. I was like, okay, what is going on here? This is across the ocean, and they connected to the content that was, I'm sure most of them had not been to Nigeria. So that was then I now understood that your market is not just, within. In fact, most times the biggest market, like the artists will tell you, the biggest markets are actually Pan-African. So it only makes sense that if the consumers are out there, then you find, the people out there. So it's available to all parts of Africa, right? Look at us here, right? So that means we don't even understand your language, but it's a big thing, So basically, if they knew, they would have set up shop here and made some money. But they don't know.
Also, Geneva, for the Story Lab, are you looking for partners and content creators across Africa?
Absolutely. I think, African stories are, there are so many to tell, and they've been told so well to date, but haven't found the audience yet because of distribution. And I think, we'd love to tell stories all across the continent. La Vida, we're looking to partner with AFRIF too, to find those storytellers and help incubate and grow the stories, as co-producers.
Okay. So yeah, I guess the key thing with growth in any markets has always been like collaboration, right? So one thing that is not uniquely Nigerian, because we want to move fast, we tend to move alone. And now in the global stage with financing, it has to be, you know, with every production you've seen across African cinema, there are like 3-4 countries involved. There are co-producers across Ethiopia, France, you know, and that's the way they've been able to not just raise financing across board, but also being able to ground the stories and make it relevant for each market. So we're telling stories and we have a large audience, but I guess the takeaway is don't be afraid, you know, of co-production. Don't be afraid of partners. Don't be afraid to go bigger and together. So about this $100 million now, can you tell us what it entails? Like what? So I'll keep coming back here. Don't worry. I know that's what you want to really hear about. not my little nuggets. But yeah. So how is it structured? So what is the bill by bill? I know you've given. La Vida was announced for $50 million. It's another $50 million somehow. Is there a slate financing? Is it a loan facility? How do you see it? How is it? What is the structure of accessing this funds?
So thank you. That's a very good question, a very important one at that, because you know, because here we're used to, once we hear money, we assume it's always the case. Most times people come approach us and then they're like, "I want money. What's your interest?" So it's as if the only financing we understand across board is debt, right? And I can tell you from, of course, statistics, general statistics, the SMEs make up, you know, a bulk of, basically they drive the Nigerian economy. They are the largest employers, but they are the least financed. And that is why you go to the biggest markets in the East, most of them are traders. You find out that, you know, most of them became wealthy, but you can't trace it to a bank, basically. So somehow there is financing for the ecosystem. Yeah, they use what they call the apprenticeship system, where you serve for a number of years and then you get funds and they grow. And they've built markets, built cities without a bank. So basically what that says is that sometimes it's, you take a hammer to a problem that needs a screwdriver. It doesn't always work. So that's what we are doing to get most content producers don't, in fact, they shouldn't be taking debt the way they want to take debt. And when I say the way they want to take debt, you want to do, let's say, $10 million film and you want to borrow $10 million. I mean, are you going to commit your entire village, you know, the land? So basically, it doesn't work like that literally, and that is where the co-production also helps, because what happens is when you aggregate resources and talent, you also aggregate the ability to attract the kind of funding required, and we have designed our funding to address this, right? We see the entire value chain, we know how we want to plug it, and this is almost like a very beautiful opportunity because right now you have a global audience. About before, maybe it would have been, oh, you want to do Living in Bondage, and then you'd go to the Alaba Boys, you want to see who's going to, you know, how to distribute. But now you have a very large marketplace where you also have your consumers across the board. For example, one of our biggest distribution players, you have Jason, Iroko TV. He will tell you that he doesn't make his money from Nigeria. Those that pay or subscribe to the platform are actually the ones abroad.
So it's not a loan. So how does it work? Like so how does it work like step by step? Is it for okay, let me streamline. Is it for content production? Because the industry is bigger, it's much more than making films. Yes. So is the fund target towards content production to start with? Mm-hmm. And then what is it tied to? So for, I think Geneva was talking about having outtakers in terms of streamers and having a distribution pipeline. Mm-hmm. So do we have to you see how I said we now. Do we have to come in with distribution, with proof of distribution or intent or co-production intent? Like how would it play out?
So yes, yes, of course that is almost like a preliminary, let's say, part of the checklists, right? However, something very important is that for every financing that happens, there has to be an underlying asset, right? That you either hold on to or that generates the future cash you expect. And when it comes to films, the underlying asset is the content, right? And that's why you see the bigger studios, they are basically buying up and hoarding, storing, holding content. So the content becomes the asset class. And in Africa, we're trying to make sure that we keep our content. Do you get? You wouldn't understand the value of the content you have, maybe 5 years, 10, 20 years down the line. Then you wonder. I mean, recently we had Tina Turner. I think she sold her music catalog to another house. That's after how many years? For a lot of money, right? So basically, the content is, we say that when it comes to natural resources, what you have under the ground is the asset, the gold, the oil. But when it comes to creative and cultural industry, it's the intellectual property you create. That is the asset class. So that basically forms the foundation for the funding structure.
Okay. Yes, please.
So while it makes a lot of sense for us to target international audience, because basically they are the most valuable off-takers at the moment. For example, if you use, I always refer to natural resources because it's always obvious. For example, cocoa, most times. We take cocoa here and then we export it, right? And we buy chocolate. So, and if you compare that, you find out that if we could process our cocoa into chocolate, we would actually make much more than we make from exporting cocoa. So by producing, having some co-production and working with other partners within the African ecosystem, we create more value for Africa. So that even when you're exporting to an international consumer, you make more money from it. So it only makes sense that we target increasing the capacity, both the production capacity and also, of course, the value in the content.
Just before we... Thank you very much. I'll soon open up for questions. Just 1 second, but because we were talking also about time and the idea that we can't continue to source financing project per project, and then we have to start thinking of slate financing and securing financing 5 for 5, maybe 5-10 projects at a time, which would probably mean more of course more collaboration. So what is how does that play into this financing model? And so if basically a content producer has 5 projects or 6 projects, I guess the one thing that is standard across board is everyone is looking for local content that can travel, and that's the future, or that's what's happening right now. So how does that play in with the structure of your financing and the time bound?
Okay, so on the structure in terms of with respect to slate, that is actually our preferred structure, in the sense that we're looking at a portfolio, because it makes it easier to not only distribute to risk, right? I mean, imagine you're a musician, you don't go, I mean, unless you're well established, then you go release just one song and then it blows, and then after 3 years. So basically, we have an album, a portfolio, right? Enables you spread your risk and also increases. I think it was Geneva that was talking about how those affect the financing. Geneva, recall when you mentioned that you could use the same resource to produce a slate of movies or films. So basically that's the approach. It makes economic sense, other than just doing one project, then after a while you come and do one again. So that is it. Then what was the second question? Okay, so now it's like I said, it's a mix. So when you say is it available for 5 or 4 years, that means you're assuming what everyone would assume is just debt. It's just a loan. So is it a 4-year loan, a 3-year loan, a 2-year loan? No. You get. So if we're committed to financing a project that takes 5 years, then by default, it's a 5-year. For example, if we decide to do Africa Avengers, right? And then we'll have to release it every year. That means we're in for the 10 years, right? So it's contextual. It's not, it's case by case, yeah.
Okay, question.
Hi. I'm not sure if it works. Does it work? Yeah. So I'm not a finance person, so I have a hard time understanding the process here.
Okay.
But I just want to know, can you do something very, like you're explaining it to a 4-year-old? Like, for example, someone who's a content producer or comes to you, what is the actual process? Meaning, what is the profile? Has to be, for example, she's American, I'm Afropean. Can we be part of that, coming to your company and ask for financing and so on and so forth? What is the type of profile? You mentioned that you need to have a slate of project. And also, how do you value the IP? Because, for example, if I come with a project that is on, I don't know, racing, for instance, is it valuable to you? How do you assess your future return on investment and that? If you can do like a walkthrough of the entire process, if it's possible. Sorry? Oh, my bad.
Okay.
Oh, no, but it just, yeah. Yeah, because really, right now I'm really lost because I don't know who can come to you. We are not per se an African native. Can we come to you? But we have, because you mentioned Pan-African. So for our understanding, we should be eligible for that, right? Now, when it comes to project, would that be, you mentioned the African Avengers, so that are $1 million of type of investment you're going for. But if we have, for example, a more of an art house type of film, or that type of film, or do we have to do something like the wedding party, or those type of big blockbusters, or would that be more of, let's say, documentary? So if you can explain in more, let's say, comprehensive word for non-financing people here. Does it make sense? Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Very good question. The first part of it is, if you are not African, can you partake in it? So now, because it's by virtue of its name, it's focused on Africa, right? And the idea is to grow the industry, right? To support it. Now, there are two sides. No. So you do projects in Nigeria. Now, do you create in Nigeria? Do you distribute in Nigeria?
Writing content for both. So I'm from LA, but it's content for the diaspora. So part of it's going to be shot here with talent and, cast and crew and everything. The other half of it's going to be shot in Los Angeles, but I'm making it because I want to be able to bridge the gap between diaspora filmmakers, diaspora fans, and people here. I mean, that's where the story content is.
And who's your final market?
The global market.
Global market. So fantastic. I mean, it's looking at it, you have put in some African content to it. That's one. and then you're going to be, from the economic perspective, you're going to be earning Forex. So if we fund it, it means that we'll be earning Forex from you. So basically,
Yeah,
for the
because I know,
funds.
like with me, I'm self-funding. I mean, I'm getting some investors, you know, in America, but also, you know, working to collaborate here. But I mean, it's like with an independent filmmaker, you know, not dealing with a huge budget, it's like, okay, how do we, you know, like Prudence was saying, how do we present that to you or anybody else that's doing that? You know, does the content have to be ready to go?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, that, you want to add that to it so it becomes a thing. Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think part of the thing that needs to be clear is that you're a financer. You're not a producer, right? So the projects are not going to be submitted to you, per se. The projects you are funding established producers like La Vida Studios, and then the independent producers now go to La Vida Studios, or Freef, or others that you may fund to then access that money, right?
Okay. So basically,
right?
Yes. So what that I think the way you can look at it this way, because I'm sure you are saying, okay, so does that then make another party the financier or so? Is that how you're saying it? Okay.
Okay. It's more about.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So I think the question is really around kind of eligibility and who is eligible for these funds and how can they access the funds. And we will go into detail. I'm sure there will be like a website set up and it would be clearly stated if you need to be 2 years old and speak 4 African languages. And all of that would be kind of set up in terms of that. I will be able, we will share the information. There's contact information to reach out to. So we don't get bogged down and he's just the financier. So you're speaking into kind of details of how the fund will be set up. And there will be announcements kind of based on that. I think if you have any questions, I mean, but the good thing about being here at the beginning is we're still talking about how it could work generally, like what are our pain points, what are we looking to do in terms of sleep. So those specificities would, you know, that's like a detailed document, like when you're applying for a Hubert Bowles fund. Yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Khadija Alami, and I'm from Morocco. I'm not going to ask you a financial question because I understand the structure and how it works because we have the same thing in Morocco. My question is, when you talk about Pan-African, do you include North Africa in it or not? Because all my conversations with a lot of people from platforms, from streamers, from other countries who are looking for African content seems to always exclude North Africa from the whole Africa continent. Thank you. And this is why I'm here, because with Chioma, we're trying to change that narrative. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope, is this your first time in Lagos? I hope you're having a good time. Fantastic. Fantastic, fantastic. So it's a very interesting question you asked. And so first I would give you a very important, you know, it's at our loss that we don't include North Africa. I'll tell you why. First of all, you have a very good relationship, economic relationship with Europe. That is one. And when it comes to the creative industry as a whole, the Northern African region makes more money than the Southern African region. So, I mean, why wouldn't we want to do that, right? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Recently, we sponsored we're part of the sponsors of Portugal Fashion, which happened, I think, a few weeks ago. And part of the conversations we had was looking at the relationship between Africa and Europe. And we realized that the biggest players when it comes to that space are actually the Northern African countries, because they have trade relationships, you know, they have better infrastructure, you know, it's more accessible. So it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, there's no way we can exclude that. And secondly, Morocco has considerable experience on the infrastructure level. So why would we ignore that, you know? So the answer to your question is yes, it includes North Africa.
Do I ask the same question to Geneva? Is Storylab, Geneva, if you're still with us, Storylab, is it open to Northern Africa? Because the question was, it focused being on Sub-Saharan Africa.
Absolutely, and I think that was Khadija who asked?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Hey, Khadija. I'm a big fan of yours, as you know. Absolutely. I mean, when we think of the continent, we think of the entire continent. And again, there are so many languages and stories and histories and cultures and ideas that will, you know, I think come from every corner. So absolutely. And, you know, Morocco is also a wonderful place to film for production. I know Khadija set up something incredible, and excited to also see what Lavita's doing in Nigeria, but absolutely, it includes the entire continent. So North Africa, indeed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and just to the earlier question of, you know, I think related to sort of like content that travels, I think it's, you know, building global content is not building content that for a global audience, it's building local content that is authentic. And I think that's why South Korea has had such success. It's creating content for South Korea that travels because it's authentic and unique voices. I think that applies to Africa as well.
Okay. I think, yes, you have the mic.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ayodeji Adejuma. I'm an actor and also a filmmaker. So I just want to break this down. And we've been talking about $100 million and everything. The question is, do your organizations fund small projects? Small projects, I mean, say a short film, a short documentary, because for someone who is like maybe barely 5 years in the industry, if I come to you and submit an application requesting for like a 30 million or 40 million, I know you will not even look at the project. So now, excuse me, so now, do you sponsor small projects? Because I know, that for someone that has little experience in filmmaking, you wouldn't want to take that risk. And are the funds, like if I want to do a short film now, will you ask me for a collateral, or do you just fund it and say, okay, we are supporting you with this so amount of money? And yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Okay, IDG, right? Okay, you answered the question, but I'll tell you something in addition to that. Part of our initiative is also to not just do ourselves, but to also attract other players who can play at different level. You know, there's a reason that we have commercial banks and then you have microfinance banks, and you try to set up those banks, because you know that no matter how well-meaning you are, based on how you operate, you can't reach everybody. So you try to encourage and support other players who can operate at different level, right? So it's like asking maybe a Zenith Bank to come to all the villages and then set up a branch because they want to fund, you know? So it may actually be impractical for us to fund all at every level. It's actually impractical. It's not even that. So that is why. No, but our initiatives are encompassing, which means we're also doing other things to make sure that nobody's left behind. You get, and then we encourage collaboration as well. You know, so those are the things we're doing.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
You have the mic.
Go ahead. Yes, but I'm hearing you, not the mic. I don't know. Still not the mic. I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. My question is basically on you finance movies. So I want to know whether you have alternatives for distribution, because people finance movies all the time, but they don't make that money back as well. So I'd like to know your own take on that, on distribution, basically, on film distribution, and when you finance the movie, how are you going to get the money back?
Okay. Thank you. So I'm surprised that you're saying people have challenges distributing the movies, you know, because it's either the content is not good enough, or maybe you have not, you know, you've not worked the market before that. However, yes, there may be instances where maybe you don't experience certain success, you know, in distribution. And we also know that the dynamics of distribution is changing, especially in Africa. I mean, you have a lot of the telecom companies and also other OTT companies trying to come into the space. So what happens is that your traditional method of distribution may not be working, or you may have to move. For example, if today you're trying to do a movie to distribute via DVD, right? Then my question will be, who is your target market? Maybe you're targeting some people in some places who still use DVDs. Do you get? If that is your market, then okay. I will tell you, this year, fine, you would sell 100,000 DVDs, but next year it will reduce because most of them start using smartphones, right? And then they would not, you know, they will have challenges even playing their DVDs. So basically, you have to look, it's not a decision you take after you have funded. It's, you look at the entire chain. You know where it's heading to, you know, before you then fund it. So I would say that we wouldn't fund a transaction or a movie that we have no idea where we're going to distribute it. It's just not going to happen. So maybe we should answer the question of distribution first, before that. And then we may end up focusing on the distribution infrastructure. So if, for example, you've found a niche market, maybe in the north, right? They like a particular kind of content, and then you want to produce that content, but you don't know how to sell to them. Then we'll first solve the problem of how to sell to them before you produce the content. If not, you'll be stuck with the content, and then you're doing nothing with it. So okay. I don't know if this answers your question.
Can we, okay, just hold on. I wanted Geneva to also weigh in on the topic of distribution and securing distribution from development.
Absolutely, yeah. So, you know, we at Story Labs, we're producers, so we will get involved very early as co-producers and look at content, whether it's just a script or an idea or a pitch, and put together the entire plan. What's the path to production, and then beyond. We have distribution capabilities within our company, but we also work with myriad distributors around the world, and I think it's exactly right that to find your audience and then meet them where they are. And not every piece of content is global. Sometimes it's finding that local market and then hoping it travels. Sometimes it's theatrical. If distribution figured out. It's something that we work together to determine based on the development, and we don't typically know until we really have a script. And from there, we entered into what's called packaging, and work with agencies like CAA, for example, to find ways to create a package that can travel. And then that decides the value, and then the market hopefully will provide more value than what we've paid for. So I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure. It's 4 in the morning here. Apologies if I'm not making any sense.
Yes, you are. Thanks, Geneva. Okay, so I think that's Ozzy of CAA. So.
Yes. Thank you for taking my question. My name is Ozzy Minikaya. I spearhead our African initiative out of Los Angeles for a creative artist agency. I think that I've just been floored by this entire conversation. You know, there is a new competition for Africa, and it's exciting to know that Africa is obviously producing and distributing our own content is the only way to retain the value of it. You know, and as you mentioned, this is, I guess, a question for Geneva and for the Film Fund. As we've already mentioned, there are a plethora of parties that are already, you know, deeply experienced at producing content within Africa already, you know, on its own, without these Western players. I guess my question is are there already conversations ongoing with these partners here in Africa, talking about maybe that's Showmax in South Africa or maybe Synergy up in Egypt, about, you know, potential collaborations once these projects come in, or are you looking at the producers that are bringing you these projects to already have those connections with these, you know, producers? At the same time, are we also looking into the diaspora? There's Globo in Brazil, who I know, you know, who leads that conversation in South America, and then of course you can go to Canal Plus in France, ways to independently finance content and own it. My question is, are we having these conversations with the partners, or are you waiting for the producers that are bringing you these projects to already come with that information?
Hello. So, Geneva, do you want to go first? Okay. So,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You go, Geneva.
You sure? Okay, sorry. I mean, I trust Ozzy. No, I know Ozzy. He's an incredible agent at CAA. I think, you know, again, you know, as a producer, you look at everything. Sometimes a great story will come from somebody who hasn't had success as a writer in the past, and that's when you work with Ozzy, throwing it right back at you to package around, right? Find the right local producer in Nigeria or the director. Sometimes it is the auspices that you start with and say, well, this is I love the last thing that you did. Let's work together on this seed of an idea. So for me, you know, again, earlier is better. You know, I always love incredible packages of, you know, incredible, you know, filmmakers already attached, but I'm not afraid of, you know, starting and then building around it.
Right. Thank you so much for the confidence, Geneva. I asked a really pointed question. You know, I think to really ascertain, you know, where the opportunity here really lies. You know, part of my job is to work with these buyers and introduce partners. You know, introduce these clients with these producers, these directors, these writers with projects to them. You know, these buyers are already looking for these opportunities. There are a few of them that are coming with the understanding that they are from the African diaspora or they're within Africa and they want to do it on their own. As soon as they license or as soon as they partner with a global streamer, they are foregoing the rights of that project. You know, recently we were able to create something called Blood Songs, which is a pseudo-African Game of Thrones with Showmax and Canal Plus in France. We now own that material, and we are now shopping it for the rest of the world via a license. So no matter what comes of it, the the rights lie, yes, with the creators, which are South African creators. So Showmax based in South Africa, Canal Plus based in France, there's Globalcom in Brazil. They're all waiting for that next opportunity. They're looking for these writers, for these directors to come with these projects. Now that we have a film fund based in Nigeria, we can throw that into the mix. And so Blood Songs was done in South Africa at $750,000 per episode. Of course, that was taking advantage of the film incentive there, which we can do in Morocco as well. So it's a pointed question, and I feel like I know the answer. We have these partners ready to go. It's exciting to know that you exist, and that we have a plethora of filmmakers ready with material. It's just a matter of getting everybody, or just getting people on the same page, and making sure that these producers with these great African projects are accessible to us when we need them.
I know you've done something wonderful in our environment here. Do you want to talk about it a little bit without mentioning too much?
Okay, because the filmmaker, I'm not too sure where he's at. I don't want to speak in too detail or in too much detail. But here's an example. There was a Nigerian film that I watched and I was floored by. So I figured out who the filmmaker was via connections here in Nigeria. I think I spoke to Moses at Film One and asked for a connection to the filmmaker. I then got in contact with that filmmaker and asked what he was doing with that film. I thought that the film could make for a great premium series. He was excited about that. And so then we took that idea and created a two-pager. It's just a two-page document of what the series could be based off of his Nollywood film. We then took that to independent financiers and tried to get them to realize what the opportunity was. I think that we were a little bit early. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So we didn't get a lot of traction. Now that the streamers are coming to town, they finally opened up and gave us a 6-figure deal for him to write the pilot, just to write the initial pilot. They came on board and then, of course, optioned his previous film, with another 6-figure deal. But I think that that is great movement, and it shows what is possible, but that is not an example of where we actually retain the ownership of that IP. So the next opportunity would be us finding out that film, going to that filmmaker, and then bringing it to you to duplicate the same exact thing. But I think that the major win here was for us to finally receive a development deal that mirrors the deals in the U.S. I think that a lot of filmmakers are going to, would sell their content for far less than what this filmmaker is being paid to simply write the first episode. And yes, he's not big name. He's not too pompous. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to duplicate what he has done.
I mean, the key thing, as he said, is like great content. I guess that's the starting point. So nothing kind of goes forward without like without the content itself being kind of like great and authentic, and so that's like a foregone conclusion. We're going forward with these deals knowing that we're talking about making great content. But what he said is actually really key, because financing begets more financing, in a sense. And then if there's already this kind of pot, then having collaborations with other in terms of regional TVs, regional TV stations or broadcasters and regional distributors means you can still retain the ownership but license it across board and kind of shop it out, which is I guess in the past with the streamers, as opposed to just kind of selling it outright to them. So it's also an interesting, I guess, opportunity to look into kind of like having kind of bigger deals with maybe with Canal Plus and Showmax and the other players in the game, because the financing is already secured. So it makes it a much easier conversation, even for the smaller guys that want to make like one short film, because then it doesn't the responsibility is not on, it doesn't lie on one shoulder, and so we can take more risks and take more chances with creating content. Is there a question? I think. Okay. Yes, sir.
Sam, did I want to say that if I come to you and you tell me that where will I sell the product, then I will not be encouraged to do that which is convincing within me. The first thing is for me to bring that which is in me. So whether it goes for you to buy or not is a different issue. If not, The Nollywood you are seeing today as it is, you will never see it. Please, please. So I have to do that which is in me to bring it out first. Because if I start looking for distribution, I won't produce anything. I will never be encouraged. Thank you, sir.
So maybe we need a lab partner. So instead of coming to him for financing, maybe in as putting together this collective of groups and supporters and financing and broadcasting, we need somebody to come in, and that's really what the Story Lab is talking about. It's like, so you can come to them with what is in you, and then they make it sexy, and they package it, and then they take it to him. So that you will look like you know, but it's still you. So I guess, so the question to you, Geneva, is what can we come with to you?
I think, you know, there's a few different ways. I think, you know, we are talking about development, and so I think it's you know, ideas, IP. As Ozzy mentioned, maybe there's a short film that could be longer form or turned into a series. Maybe it's a pitch or a treatment. Full scripts are always welcome. that way I really see what it is. Yeah, I think you know, we're working really closely with Choma. And excited about everything that we can do there. We're looking for stories that are relevant, that resonate, that, you know, sort of answer that why now question that I think a lot of programming that I've seen answers. And also to show all sides of the continent, right? All different stories. Everything I've seen coming out of Nigeria I'm so excited about. And I've seen such a small percentage. So I'm not sure that answers your question, because I don't want to put too many guardrails around it. In an ideal world, it's a script, but I'm certainly open to hearing ideas and providing feedback at an earlier stage.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that just involves the writer. So that's just you for now. Okay.
Just a quick question. Oh, my turn? Okay. Just a quick question in terms of distribution again, like post-pandemic. I mean, do we really see the movie theaters coming back full swing, or is it really going to be more, are you all thinking that it's going to be more streamer-oriented? I mean, you know, obviously the streamer thing is working for now, but do we see the big blockbusters coming back, or, you know, more movie theaters, or is that kind of going to be secondary now?
Geneva, this to you.
Sure. It's a good question, and one that is talked about all the time. This is just my opinion. I don't think movie theaters are going away, but I do think they'll need to adapt, because the home viewing opportunities, you know, you can watch a movie on your phone. It's pretty good quality now. It's not the same experience, but to get somebody to leave the safety and comfort of their home environment to go to a movie theater, I think it needs to step up a little bit. So I think it's changed. I think that there are certain types of films that people want to see on a big screen. I also think kids, you know, I've got teenagers, they watch movies on their phone, which is crazy to me. But again, we want to meet audiences where they are. So I don't think movie theaters are going away, but I do think that the theaters themselves are going to change. I thought 5 years ago I would have told you drive-ins are dead. Now they're the thing. I think they're coming back, and I think the technology will get better for that experience too. So never say never, I guess.
Yeah, can I just add to Geneva's answer? You know, to be eligible to the Oscars, you have to release in a theater. So that's what's going to save the feature films. They will have to go to a theater before they can go on streaming.
1 week though.
It doesn't matter, but it's 1 week. Maybe it's going to be after 2 weeks, and then I'm a movie theater lover, so I'm hoping that it will keep us going to the movie theater.
Yeah, I can't watch a movie on that. I think 17 days is sort of what I'm seeing now. Is that there's a 17-day exclusive theatrical window, and if it tracks well, then that gets extended. Day and dates, it's still up in the air. Some are working, some aren't. And I think that has to do with the pandemic more than anything else.
Okay. I think we could take one more question, and then, yes.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Bright Wonder. I'm a filmmaker. Okay, so with respect to the financing, film industry financing under building sustainable structures, so I think a large chunk of it is focused on that building sustainable structures. There have been kind of film financing, different kind of film financing, BOI funding has been there, but I think there's something evidently missing, and that is that knowledge for filmmakers on how to cost your money to make your film to make money. Because every producer, you are not a producer until you can answer the gateway question. Even without getting this funding from this investment organization, I know there are a lot of private funders. They have 100 million to give you, but they ask you that gateway question, how do I get my money back? And when a producer cannot answer that question, you are not a producer. You need to learn how to make the money, the film make money. Now you realize that most times out of passion and all that we make film is good, but film is a business. It's not philanthropy. If you're working for an NGO and they give you funding to make a film, is understandable. All you need to do is make a classic film, make a good film that fits the purpose of the organization. But here we're functioning as filmmakers who are business people. So we need to understand how film makes money. So, sir, with respect to setting up this structure, because even if it's $1 billion funding, $1 billion funding, I hear BOI would say they funded a lot of films. A lot of them have been well made, but have they gone out? Really, have they gotten back their money? We need to know that. So that layer is still missing, which is why festivals like this are so amazing. They are so great, but we still need an extra to create so that should someone want to come get a fund, for instance, a 50 million fund to make a film, if there is a step that gets you into more like a due process that gets you into a point where you can really not 100% proof, apart from getting maybe a pre-sale deal and all that, but you understand film financing, how to recoup your money. I think it will really help even upcoming filmmakers who have not made a big film, but they've been exposed to that kind of information, and then maybe through collaborations and all that, they have the power because they have the capacity, to now say, this is how my film is going to make money. Not less than 80% may not have that knowledge, and it makes really no much sense getting so much so much money to make a film that you can't recoup back. So I think, looking at this kind of funding to make the structure sustainable, if we have the knowledge, that knowledge will be the capacity we need to get that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, well, you touched on a few things in your comment question,
I'm telling you should have been on the panel. Because,
okay, so I'll let you go first.
I mean, he said something very, I don't know. What you have said is more of, it's not a question, it was more of a contribution, right? And it goes without saying. In fact, we have this experience when we fund other, sectors. I tell them that, my biggest headache when I finance Nigerian business is that you're a lecturer first before you even get into the business. So basically, fantastic business. But the way the things come to you, you just realize that nobody is going to touch it. It's difficult. But we see through it. So we spend the first time trying to put you in order, put things in place. And that is part of the capacity building, So you come, you want $100 million for ABCD, and then, first of all, you believe because the business is so fantastic, we should give you $100 million, right? Now, even the most fantastic business was affected by COVID, right? I mean, so what happens? And most times, entrepreneurs don't want to answer what happens. It's like, especially us, Nigeria, we believe too much. So it's not our portion, but it happens. So basically, we force most people or most of the clients to build those structures, to build the capacity. You prepare for risk. You don't wait for risk to happen, then go and prepare for it, right? So those are, it's part of our process. So it's not even a question of whether, and it's something that we wish we wouldn't do that, but this is the environment you're in. So you have to do it. I mean, it's like doing business in Nigeria and you don't buy a generator. You know, that means you're not ready to do business. Yeah.
I think that's the whole other session. I think that's the last question for today. And that's a whole other production masterclass that needs to happen, because there's so much education that needs to go into producers, even knowing how to value your work. Budgeting is a problem, because if you make a film for $10,000 cash, doesn't mean your film is worth $10,000. So there's a lot of things that we need to learn as producers going forward, and also you might not have to do everything yourself. I guess there's that mindset that because you could just be a creative producer, you can find an executive producer who can work on your financing, you can find a distributor who can sell your film, and I'm not just talking about theatrical distribution. So there's, I guess, to be open to more people coming into the ecosystem to provide value in different ways. And also the idea that a film turnaround is 1 year. The value of your film doesn't last for, I guess that's where, when you talk about loans and the payback period coming back in 1 year, 2 years, and you've just finished making the film, you have a lifetime. Your film, you have the IP of your film, you hold onto it for decades and decades. So the idea that the entire value has to be returned in 1 year is also could be problematic. And then across your films as well, not every film is profitable, just generally, worldwide. And that's why studios hedge their bets. They have the films that make money, the films that don't. And over time, so in thinking about your business and thinking about sustainability, it's not about one project, it's about your slate, it's about 10. It's thinking that maybe this one might, your KPI might not necessarily be a return on investment, but it would take you to the next level for collaboration. And so when you think about that holistically, then it's not just about, if I collect $10 million, can I pay back $50 million next year? And having heartburn and stroke and all those type of things that comes with that. But thank you so much, Geneva. Do you have any kind of closing statements or closing remarks for us?
Yeah, I'm excited about next year and a larger presence for Dentsu's Story Lab at the African International Film Festival, and to working with La Vida.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Geneva. Thank you for your time. I know it's a good night. So good night, good morning. If we can release you to rest now. Thank you so much for being a part of this for this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Geneva.
Okay. And Mr. Peters.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone. You can visit our website, www.paccapitalltd.com. Our flyers are also around, so you can pick it anywhere. And then, of course, I can share my cards with most of you in the room. So please enjoy the festival. This is the start of it's a new dawn for us, and we should take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being a part of the panel. There's more talks and films happening throughout the week and parties. So hope to see you throughout the week. Thank you so much. The next session is at 4 p.m., but the film's showing at screen 2 to 5. So please stay and hold on.
Please, the next session is at 4 p.m. here, but there are films showing, there's mingling, networking, just get into the full swing of the festival. Thank you.
Man with this system, we cannot pray. I need to find relief. But behind my mind, it runs. All these thoughts have trouble me. Funny to give up my pain. Funny to might be falling deep. I might be falling deep. Tell me now what you need. I've been going to God when I'm only in my mind. I might be falling deep. Falling deep. I might be falling. I might be falling. I might be falling. I might be falling, yeah. Higher, higher, saying yeah. Hey. Tell me why you're crying, how can it be you? When you gave me something I don't really feel, but you knew that already. When I found you on the ground, you were dying. Now you come into my yard uninvited. Can't you see me on the edge? I'm enlightened. If the world was ending, would you cry or would you try to get me? Tell me now, but I want you to be clear, yeah. Tell me now, I need you to be clear, yeah. I will wait for you, for you. I will wait for you. I will wait for you. Got me. Can you put the time on a rewind, yeah? Help me understand, can you tell me now why you made a war that we're fighting now? And you fall and you run when you see my big guns. Run around, run away as a rebel comes out. Then you call on me. When you call me, I come. But then you go again with your deaf ears. Open your mind to the sound of the trumpet. What do you want from a life of the hopeless? Now here you are, you're begging and crying. I want to fly, yeah, I'm flying to morning. Running away to the land of discovery. Running away from the suffering, I'm going, yeah. Running away from the darkness, I'm out, yeah. Higher than all the limits, going way beyond the noise and your feelings. When you speak, all I can hear is silence. Turn it back from all the pain and violence. Big tunes, now it's big tunes, I'm killing. Cry now from the side, now call my name. Fall down when you see me, you know that I was there for you. I will wait for you, for you. I will wait for you. I will wait for you. Yeah. Finally, I'm not running back. I'm turning up and down and down, coming down. I be coming for your mind, running in. I be fighting for your time, right? I know it's fine, I know it's good, damn. I know you're mine, you know it too, fine. I might be wrong, but I don't care. I just did my own, just been on there waiting for you to come, yeah, and be under 18. Ride my wave, would you ride my bike? Cause I've been giving you my time. And I make iced tea and I make it where you love it. Yeah, flaws and all, I be the one you run to. And I be for you and no one else. Tell me what you want, I be going in. Finally. And I make iced tea and I make it with your lemon. Yeah, I'm on the jets, I make you break when I grace. I'ma light up this place, let me spice up your plate. Set it up, take a squeeze, pour it up and make it freeze. Make that tea, the vibe is made, the vibe is made. Here's my peace of mind, I'ma give you one more try, yes. If you need a ride, then you met the leading vibe, yeah. Come and get this oil, you can pour it where you like. I'ma throw you on my back, but now I see you've just been on there waiting for you to come, yeah, and be on that steady. Ride my wave, would you ride my mind? Cause I've been giving you my time, baby. I make iced tea and I make it with your lemons. Yeah, flaws and all, I be the one you run to. And I be for you and no one else. Tell me what you want, I be going in. Finally. And I make iced tea and I make it with your lemons. Yeah, yes. You know that really going mine. You know you really going mine. You know you really going mine. So let me help you squeeze. I know you wanting me. I know you wanting me. Yeah, you want it, baby. Ooh, raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Say raspberry, blueberry. Yeah, I said it's raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Say raspberry, blueberry. Oh, I said it's raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. See raspberry, blueberry. Yeah, I said it's raspberry, blueberry with your lemon. Yeah. Ice.
Ginger and vanilla.
Ice.
Ginger and vanilla.
You right.
Honey in the center.
Vibe.
Honey in
You
the
taking flights.
Ginger and vanilla.
Whoa.
Ginger and
You know it's true.
can make your dinner.
Damn.
I can make
You know it's mine.
Ginger and vanilla.
Oh boy.
Ginger and vanilla.
Alright.
Honey in the center.
Alright.
Honey in the center. Ginger and vanilla. Ginger and vanilla. I can make your dinner. I can make your dinner.
Yeah. Finally, I'm not running back. I'm turning up and on and down, coming down. I be coming for your mind, running in. I be fighting for your time, right? I know it's fine, I know it's good. Damn, I know you're mine, you know it too. Fine, I might be wrong, but I don't care. I just did my own, just been on there waiting for you to come, yeah, and be under 18. Ride my wave, would you ride my bike? Cause I've been giving you my time. And I make iced tea and I make it where you love it. Yeah, flaws and all, I be the one you run to. And I be for you and no one else. Tell me what you want, I be going in. Finally. And I make iced tea and I make it with your lemon. Yeah, I'm on the jets, I make you break when I grace. I'ma light up this place, let me spice up your plate. Set it up, take a squeeze, pour it up and make it freeze. Make that tea, the vibe is made, the vibe is made. Here's my peace of mind, I'ma give you one. it's good. Damn.
Hello?
Can you hear me? 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 Eh? I won't take you. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello. 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 So let talk from the control room. We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, yes, we can hear you clearly too. We can hear you clearly.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Wale, AEC, African Event Company.
Okay. Is it not loud?
It's loud enough. It's loud.
Yeah, just excuse that. Can you break it down into this?
We can hear you. It's loud.
It's echoing now. That's what I'm saying. Echoing.
Hey, you're on Zoom, but it's clear here. You just be showing that with you. I can hear you from here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Are we good?
Yes, thank you.
All right, sir.
Can I continue, Lawrence? Should I stop? How down? Okay, I'm going down. I'm going down. Okay. Hello? Hello? It's okay. Huh? Okay. Efe.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Wave your hand, wave your hand.
Oh, can you see my hand? Hello?
You can see your hand. Okay. Julia, don't do it now. Julia, don't do it now. Hello? Can you hear me? The section. I won't draw itself, and if it, that will make it look down. Okay. But draw now. Let me draw now. Look. Huh? Yeah. We'll read it. After I study testing, you don't do, you know this. I say that.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh. Okay, you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Clearly?
I can hear you.
All right. Can you see me? That's cool then. You can hear me?
I can hear you. So keep talking the sound, I'll be sure. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything. Let's get you. Super. Good to see you.
What are you doing? Oh, you're video. I know it was like a live video.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Loud and clear.
Hello.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Where are you? I want to come and meet you. Where are you?
I am downstairs. I'm by the bar. I'm by the bar.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
I can hear you clearly. Listen. See, I was giving that to you. Nice. You say about the bar. You want to hear. Yo. Okay, it just seems like the family
Hello.
Hello.
Efe, what's up?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Where's your speaker?
I can hear you.
So, tell me about your experience yesterday at Afro.
Oh, it was a marvelous experience, especially from the opening sessions. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the movies because I'm working with the production crew. But the crowd, the turn-up was really marvelous. And then the after party was super lit as usual. Super lit. Yeah. And I'm so excited. So, yeah, we're still here. We're going on today, day 2. And the turn-up is good. So, yeah, I'm enjoying the experience so far. I'm enjoying it.
So what's your plan for today?
So far, we've run some good number of interviews, especially with the sessions, the financing session. And we still intend to interview some of the panelists and follow up on all the other sessions that are going on as well, and get to know people's experiences and what they're also expecting for the whole festival.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Is that? You. You done yet?